What's going on, guys? Good Monday evening, early evening, as it were. Hope you guys are doing good so far today. And we've got a little bit of a developing situation to talk about with our coaching staff and one particular member of it because some things are happening and it seems like something is likely to happen in the coming days and weeks. First of all, though, I just want to say that if you want to talk about this situation a little bit more, for those of you who didn't know, I am going to be live on Twitch tonight for probably most of the evening on Fire Emblem. So if you want to stop on by, if you've never been to my Twitch before, just click the link in the video description. Hop on over there, click the follow button, and you'll get alerted when I go live. And yeah, you'll be able to see me almost every day playing something. Okay, so this is something we might be talking about tonight, by the way, here, because it seems like this is picking up traction. As of right now, to the best of my knowledge, it has not happened yet, but it seems like something is likely to happen. So, about a week ago, maybe a little bit more than a week, we got word that the Cleveland Browns were considering Sean Desai as their new defensive coordinator for 2023. They interviewed him, I think, twice, and they ended up giving the position to somebody else. So at that point, it seemed like, oh, okay, that was, there's nothing really to talk about there. There's nothing actionable yet. But the interesting part of that ended up not really being the fact that he was, hired or not hired, because at the end of the day, if he's not hired, he's not hired. The interesting thing is that he was willing to be interviewed for a defensive coordinator job, period. And now, as of yesterday morning, we got word that he is going to be potentially looking at other defensive coordinator jobs, and he is desired by some of these teams. According to this tweet from around the NFL, Dolphins and Vikings are both teams that are expected to heavily consider Sean Desai for their vacant defensive coordinator jobs. We all know that the Vikings just let Ed Donatel go, and Sean Desai replacing him would make a lot of sense because they were on coaching staffs together. The difference is that Sean Desai is like 30 years younger and might have some newer, fresher ideas, because whatever was going on in Minnesota on that defense was not working, not even close to being working. And they might want to get somebody who can bring a lot of the same ideas, but with some new twists to it to make it actually effective. So you take a look at all this. It seems like if Sean Desai wants to become a defensive coordinator, the job is out there. Like, the Browns almost signed him. Apparently, they really liked what they heard from him. They ended up just picking somebody else. And now we've got two more teams that are requesting to interview him. And near as we can tell, it seems like he is interested in taking a DC spot. So the interesting thing about this, because, look, at the end of the day, our defense last year was as bad as it's been since Pete Carroll got here. So I don't think anybody would be torn up if Sean Desai left. Right now, I want to say this. I think Sean Desai did a pretty good job in 2022. And even if he didn't, I believe he is one of the bright young minds in the NFL right now as a coach. I believe that he is somebody with a lot of potential to not only continue to do what he's done so far in the NFL, but also one day be a good head coach. He strikes me as that kind of person, somebody who will one day become a head coach. If you take a look at his roles in on previous teams, defensive quality control coach for the Bears for many, many years. Then he was a safety coach. He was a DC for 1 year. Then he comes to Seattle as the associate head coach. And I want to focus on that phrase right there, associate head coach defense. Now, reportedly, Sean Desai had opportunities last year to become a defensive coordinator. He could have become a defensive coordinator last year for another team, but he chose to go to Seattle. They gave him a title that was not defensive coordinator, and theoretically, they gave him more than defensive coordinator, right? Associate head coach, now who knows what he actually does, but my understanding of it is that Sean Desai is somebody who handles game planning during the week, and then Clint Hurtt is the one who actually does play calling during the game. That would be my understanding of it, but we don't really get to see that side of stuff. But we also did hear pretty explicitly last year that, excuse me, Sean Desai was going to have some degree of personnel control. He was going to have some degree of say in the players that the team brought in. So he was going to be exercising some of that power when the roster was being put together, which is why he was ultimately convinced to come to Seattle instead of going to another location. I think it was actually the Vikings last year that tried to woo him. And he chose Seattle, presumably because he felt like he would have more power, more control, and a bigger role on Seattle as the associate head coach than he would as a defensive coordinator of another team. And here we are a year later, and he's getting offers to interview as a defensive coordinator. It sounds like he's amenable to it after 1 year in Seattle. So why might that be, is basically what I'm trying to figure out here. What changed in 1 year that made him decide he'd rather be an associate head coach in Seattle than a defensive coordinator elsewhere, and then 1 year later go, I think that DC job sounds pretty sweet. I'll leave behind the associate head coach job in Seattle to go be a defensive coordinator a place like, say, Minnesota. And let's keep in mind here, he already interviewed for Cleveland. So that implies, at the very least, that he would rather be the DC in Cleveland than the associate head coach in Seattle. So maybe there was something here that he just didn't like. Maybe he didn't care for the way the defense was put together with the combination of the Vic Fangio stuff with the Pete Carroll stuff, and it didn't work at all. Complete disaster. I mean, you could honestly say that this year has weakened Desai's resume because we had a bad defense. We had a, at times, really bad defense. Maybe he knows that he's got a pretty good resume overall right now because of all the time he spent under Fangio, running Fangio-style stuff, and Fangio stuff's hot right now. And he's like, I need to get out of here away from what this team is doing because it's going to kill my resume. I still have a good reputation because of what happened in Chicago, where I had a defense in 2021 that was devoid of talent, and yet I actually had them 6th in the league in yards allowed. They allowed a lot of points, but that's because my offense was terrible. I couldn't really do anything about that. So I got to take the residual good rep I have from that year in Chicago, plus the previous years in Chicago as a safeties coach and a defensive quality control coach, and get something out of it. Maybe, and this is a theory that a lot of people have had, we don't know if it's true or not, that Pete Carroll told this Sean Desai that he was going to become the next head coach of the Seahawks when Pete Carroll stepped down. That was part of the deal that got him to come to Seattle. There was an understanding that, hey, when Pete Carroll goes away, you are going to be the head coach. You are going to take over. You're going to get groomed under Carroll like you were groomed under Fangio. And then at some point, Carroll is going to step down, and then it's your show. Maybe that deal has changed. Maybe he's gotten the idea that Carroll's not walking away anytime soon. Maybe there's something like that going on here. I don't know. It's hard to parse through because we don't even know if that was originally the case. But my point that I'm trying to make here is, one, it looks like Desai is going to be gone this offseason. He's been through one round of interviews with a team like the Browns, not even a hyper-desirable spot, right? It's the Browns. And now he's reportedly going to get looked at by 2 other teams. And there could be other teams down the pipe that look at him. So Sean Desai seems like he's going to be somewhere else this offseason. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting, number one. Number two, it seems like something has changed. He must have not liked something here. Maybe he doesn't like working with Carroll. Maybe he doesn't like how, because of the way everything got put together on the defense this year, it was so bad it's going to kill his rep. Something didn't go well with the Sean Desai experience, it seems to me. If he stays here, it'll be because nobody wanted him, not because he didn't want to go somewhere else, it seems to me. All right, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you see this a different way. Let me know if you've got a different theory here. But the implication from all this is that Desai did not have a great time in 2022, and that that doesn't reflect terribly well on something going on in this organization, because I'm going to continue to say it because I continue to believe it's true. Sean Desai is one of the young, super exciting, super talented, super capable coaches in this league right now. And I believe that one day he will be a head coach, and I think he has a chance to be a good head coach. I would even say that about him over a guy like a Shane Waldron. I don't look at Shane Waldron and see a guy who will one day be a head coach. I look at Desai and I see that. But it seems like maybe he's not getting what he wanted here. Maybe he got here and realized, oh, I don't really have personnel control at all. I have no say in that. Or I don't really have any say in the play in the week-to-week planning. Maybe Carroll just, as soon as Desai came in, Carroll just decided, yeah, you have no power here. I do everything. You're just a figurehead. You just sit there and watch. And maybe he's decided, I don't like that. So we'll see what happens in the coming days. But just the fact that he's interviewing, just the fact that he's putting himself out there, and he's willing to take a position that he supposedly turned down last year, that indicates to me that things did not go very well in 2022 for Desai. And obviously it didn't go well on the field with the defense because the defense was bad. But it feels like there's something else going on here just beyond that. There's some sort of disconnect between what he thought he was going to do and what he's doing. I don't know. Something's not right is what I'm trying to get at here. But we'll see if we keep Desai. He's actually not the only Seahawks coach who may depart this offseason. Dave Canales, the quarterback coach, may go coach the offense for the Ravens in 2023, which significant loss potentially because Dave Canales has been here for quite some time, and he's done some pretty impressive work with multiple quarterbacks now. So we'll talk about that if anything really big develops there. But could be a little bit of turnover at the coaching spot. Now, on the one hand, the good news there is that it means that our coaches are actually desirable to other teams, which is an indication that we're doing something right. But on the other hand, it also means you might be losing your coaches, and that sucks. Okay. Hope to see you on Twitch tonight. Peace out. Go Hawks. We'll see what happens with these coaches, but I'm starting to feel like Desai is not going to be here anymore.